What's up guys, Theros Cousin here. Welcome back to another devlog in this Habit Slayer series. This is officially the second devlog, and in this one, I want to focus on and talk about the monsters of Habit Slayer. Because really, the monsters are like the core of what this app/game is, right? Because essentially it's called Habit Slayer. So like, what are you slaying? You're slaying the monsters. And how are you slaying them? Well, you're slaying them by doing your real life habits and tasks, right? So they're like central to what the app is. Now, when it comes to the monsters, the first thing that I want to mention is that monsters were actually not even in the app until as recent as 2 months ago. This app has been out for a year and a half at this point, and for the majority of the life cycle of the app, there was no monsters at all. The app actually even had a different name. It was not even called Habit Slayer, it was called Habit Quest. And the whole point was, instead of fighting monsters, you would actually do quests with your habits. And you can even see it here. I just went on this website over here to find an older version of my app that has the old screenshots because I didn't have those screenshots anymore. If you open up here these images here, you're gonna see how the app actually looked like up until 2 months ago, right? So this was a RPG habit tracker. And here it says you turn your habits and tasks into epic quests involving real historical events and mythology. That was actually something that I tried to do to be unique. All of the quests and all of the world of that app were supposed to be real historical. And that meant that all of the things that you had, all the magic and all of that, was supposed to be in history. For example, if I come here and I go, I believe to, this one over here, this was a quest. This was called the Ferryman's Price. This was actually in Greek mythology. So I basically themed everything around actual history and actual mythology, and that was kind of the way that I wanted to differentiate myself with these quests and this app generally, right? And the whole point of the app was kind of similar to what it is today, because obviously the monsters got birthed out of these quests over here, and basically you had your habits, right? Whatever you wanted to do, and then you basically did your habits. I think I have the screenshot over here. You basically did your habits, right? And then you would contribute to the quest. The quest usually had you like get X amount of some items, like an iron ore, for example, or a wooden log. And just like now, every single time that you do a habit, you're dealing damage to a monster, then you would just contribute to the actual quest, right? So this was the origins of Habit Slayer, right? It was called Habit Quest. Now, the problem with this is that I actually have analytics set up in the application, and unfortunately, nobody was really using these quests. I had like, I think somewhere around 30 to 40% of people even starting one quest, and then only 25% of those people actually finishing a quest, which was very unfortunate because I was really proud of these features over here, of these quests over here, but they just were not really finding the core audience for them to actually use them consistently in the app. And when you have an app like that, it's really important that you actually check your analytics and how your users are actually using the app, because it's really important for you to make sure that the features that you're building are actually used by the majority of the actual users in your app. Otherwise, you're building things which, even though they might be cool, right? If other users don't find them cool and don't use them, then you're kind of not putting your efforts in the right place when it comes to actually the long-term success of the application. So after doing that, essentially, I took the hard decision to kind of really think and rethink the whole concept of the app, really. And I decided to do away with quests as the main thing in the app. As you're going to see, we still have quests in Habit Slayer. They're just now no longer the central part of the application, and instead try using monsters instead. The cool thing about monsters is that they pretty much function just like a quest, right? So every time you do a habit, you're basically contributing to something, whether it's a quest or you're dealing damage to a monster. It functionally works the same in the app, but monsters have this advantage that they're much cooler than doing a quest. It's like a monster, you fight it, right? The monster can actually hit you back, and it just makes it much more engaging. At least that was the theory, right? To a user who's using this app. And so now this is what the screenshots actually look like, right? So these are now all themed. These are the ones that currently, at the time of filming this video, you will see on the App Store. Now the whole point is you turn your habits into epic battles. And also now, because of these monsters here, I also dropped the requirement for this to be historically accurate. As cool as it was, I think that it was a little bit limiting because everything had to be a little bit historical, and I couldn't really do all of the things that I would have wanted to do in like a fantasy world, right? So I dropped that, And now you have actual dragons over here. Now you have like the whole concept of attributes on the monsters, which quests did not have, right? So now based on your attributes, right, your character's attributes and the attributes of the monster, that determines how much damage you deal to the monster and how much damage the monster deals back to you, right? And this now gives a whole new meaning to the actual app. And of course, it also made sense for me to change the name of the app from Habit Quest to now Habit Slayer, because of course it just fits a little bit better. And the way that I view this is, if you've ever played old school RuneScape, which you know, right, this is like one of my favorite games, and this is the heaviest inspiration for Habit Slayer. This is like the Slayer quest in RuneScape, right? You're basically defeating monsters over and over again, and that's what you do here inside of this app. And I'm very happy to say that after doing this change, if I come here and actually show you my analytics, we're gonna come here and look at the monster combat over here. So this one over here is basically a funnel. So how many people do a certain action and then do the next action after that, right? So you can track basically how many people, for example, here completed the onboarding. So that's 788 people. And then how many of those actually started a combat? That's 459. That's about 58%. This value is a little bit lower than before, simply because I'm not entirely sure why, but I got a bunch of users. You can see here in the last few days, I got a bunch more users than normal, but those users have not been using the app as I expect them to. So I don't know if they're like actually qualified users for my application, and they unfortunately brought a lot of my metrics down because just the sheer volume of those users. So before that, if you exclude this value over here of the people that actually started a combat was closer to 65, which is a much better percentage than the 30 to 40 that I had with the quests, right? This tells me that the monsters resonates a lot more with the users and that it was a good decision to actually do that. And then the amount of people that actually defeat a monster, here it says 46, but it was closer to 50%. So that means that 50% of people are actually defeating monsters, which is a very good sign. And here you can see in the last 7 days, the average starting of a combat. So this is my metric over here. On average, people start around 2 fights in the last 7 days per day, which is actually a very strong metric because it tells me that people are not only doing one monster, but they're at least doing 2 monsters, right? This, of course, doesn't really capture all of the people that go beyond that, right? It's a limited set, but still it shows me that people are engaging with the actual monster mechanic. And here you can see just how much people are engaging with it. Again, keep in mind, everything is a little bit lower than it should just because of those extra users that I'm not entirely sure where they came from. But you can see here, this is basically the stickiness of the monster. So on every single day over here, how many people are actually fighting a monster consecutive days. So for example, this is 1 day, day 0 over here. So this is how many people have started a combat 1 day or more. This is how many people have started a combat 2 days or more, right? So 2 different days that they start combats on those dates. That calculates this metric. That's sitting here at 37%. It's usually closer to 40%, which is a good sign. And then of course, 3 days or more, it's going to be less, right? The more you increase, the less it's going to be, 22%. And then it just goes down in here. So it basically shows me that people are engaging with this monster mechanic as it currently is, right? And I mean, this makes me happy because obviously this was a scary change to like completely rebrand the application from quests to these monsters over here, but I'm really proud of everything that I've done and all of the monsters that are currently here on the app. You can see all of these cool monsters over here. They're really cool. I'm very proud of these, especially these golems over here. I think they turned out very nicely considering that I'm not an artist at all. I basically just went to some images on Google Images and kind of used those as inspiration, but it's really hard for me to draw these and I'm very happy how they actually turned out. And yeah, I'm also very happy that users are actually using these monsters over here. And as you can see, like I said, now we have monsters all the way to level 72, which I honestly doubt many people will actually be able to defeat because this one is a very tough dragon. Even I haven't defeated it yet. It has 80 intelligence. It's doing magic damage over here. So good luck, have fun trying to fight it. But if you do, there's a very cool achievement that you can unlock by defeating this monster, right? So that's the monsters. I'm very happy with how they turned out. And I'm also very happy that it actually works in this current state because I do plan to add some improvements to the monsters that I think will make a very big difference. So what I plan to do, and this is something that I'm going to talk about in a future devlog when I actually start building it, is on top of monsters, if I go back here to the application, on top of monsters, I want to add dungeons. and dungeons are basically going to be collections of monsters that you fight as a dungeon, and they will give you more rewards than you would have if you just fight the monster by itself. Because while it's very cool to have all of these monsters over here, right, and fight them one by one, I think it's even cooler to do it as part of a dungeon, right? The dungeon would function just like these monsters here. It would basically, you start a dungeon and then you automatically get the first monster, right? Let's say, for example, I don't know, it's a chicken. You get the chicken, you defeat the chicken, and if you're within a dungeon, as soon as you defeat the chicken, the next monster comes. Let's say you have to defeat 3 chickens, right? So you do 3 of them, then you do maybe 2 goblins, right, and 1 wolf or something like that. And once you defeat the final monster, you've cleared the dungeon and you get all of your rewards for that dungeon. I think this is going to make a huge difference because with the dungeons, you can actually theme them. You can have something like the goblin camp, for example. You can have something like the skeleton lair or whatever, right? And you can basically add a lot more content to the application, a lot more things to do, while still keeping the core of the application very simple and kind of very similar to what it is today. So yeah, those are the monsters. That's their history, how they came to be and how they currently are and where they're going. Leave me a comment down below what you think about these monsters over here. And also tell me what's the strongest monster that you defeated. I'm very curious to see how users are actually using this application, and let's maybe make a little bit of a contest to see who can defeat the strongest monster. So that's it for this devlog. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy this and you want to follow the journey of this application to see where it actually goes, consider subscribing. It's completely free, just like the app. It's also completely free. You can find download links to Habits Layer for both iOS and Android in the description down below, and also come join us on the Discord. We're very few members, but we're active and there's a lot of room to grow. My name has been Darius Kozin. This is the devlog of Habits Layer. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Ciao, ciao.